Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Got the second virus of the season already. Eh, anyhow, it is what it is. I had a good time chatting with Tim, Samwise 7 RPG, and it's funny. I said we should chat, and next thing you know, he was streaming it, and we were we were live, so it's on there for everybody to see. And the audio and the video didn't match up quite well all the way till near about the end, and it actually missed some of the audio, and it's funny because the audio it missed is something I kind of was thinking about because I hadn't thought about that in a while. I figured this would be kind of a cool thing to make a video about. It's not the usual kind of thing I talk about, but Tim asked me at some point, how do you prepare, but for sessions or games, and then how do you keep stuff straight that happened in an adventure? I'm not sure exactly how we got onto that subject, but as we were talking about as game masters, how sometimes you kind of feverishly writing notes as the game is going on, like trying to remember all the stuff that happened. And that includes the stuff you made up on the fly, but it's also just the stuff that happened because you're so intent on actually running the game. And so I thought about it for a second. When I was talking to him, just kind of off the cuff, I remember, usually my MO has been as soon as the game's over. That's probably where most of my prep actually happens. Everybody goes home, and on a good day, I get to sit down, at my computer and write down what happened. What's still fresh in my mind. I don't like to wait till the next day. Um, sometimes I have to, but I like to write it down then and just kind of, give myself some notes. But then I thought about it, and so it's in the conversation, which unfortunately didn't make it to the actual video. Um, is that probably the most successful, or not even probably the most successful thing I ever had happen was, we're playing. I wasn't the game master, but it happened to be in the Lamentations of the Flame Princess game that Joe the lawyer ran, which I talk about a lot. But it was a really good campaign, so it's I kind of a lot of great examples come from that game. I learned a lot during that campaign. But one of the guys, the other guy named Joe, was he had played a specialist named Brenson. Joe was like one of the best um, players I've ever played with in terms of like political stuff and just getting political machinations and just really getting his hands in everything and coming up with some really wild like let's do this, let's do that, let's like kind of be movers and shakers. Really devious. I had a lot of fun playing with him. But also what he did is after every game, he would generally kind of do this recap of what happened and email it to all of us. And then, we got the chance to say, okay, well, that's right. Or sometimes we'd say, hey, you forgot this. And we'd add it to this kind of running narrative. And I think he just did it to have a narrative of the game. But it turned out to be this kind of collaborative, you know, uh, archiving or just, making sure we had all our facts straight. And this helped, not only us as players, but it also helped the game master quite a bit. The other thing that emerged out of this, just kind of a separate topic, but it all happened at once, is then we got to do a lot of playing by email. And what I mean is like generally a lot of times we'd be back at town or in some kind of safe area. Not all the time. Sometimes we had some cliffhanger session endings, but we'd end up in town and then we'd do a lot of like, well, what do you do next? And sometimes we'd have single conversations with Joe, the game master, and a lot of times we just kind of it'd be a group email, and so Duress does this, he messes around in his laboratory or pays his his lackeys to transcribe this spell or figure this stuff out because I had another wizard working for me, and in the meantime Branson would do some kind of political junk. Sometimes I'd meet with my contact, etc. So we did a lot of stuff that was I don't want to say it would be boring in game, but the other players, if we were doing a lot of this stuff in game, a lot of us would be sitting around twiddling our thumbs as somebody else maybe did 15 minutes worth of role play and political maneuvering in game. So it was I don't think we did that on purpose, but it's kind of like, hey, the game was so fun that we were kind of playing it during the week as well. Um, but that was a big digression to say a lot of this happened in the middle of our collaborative note taking, and so that's in my experience has been the most effective way of keeping the game straight. And if a player does that, that's great. Somebody takes the initiative to do that, and I think at least my experience was it kept us all a lot more immersed and interested and engaged with the game. Even when we weren't actually sitting at the gaming table. I think I still have a lot of those things archived on my email. I should go back and look at them. But that worked probably the best out of anything I've ever done in terms of just keeping what happened straight. And certainly I think helped Joe as a game master figure out what to do next, and helped us figure out so when we sat down at the table, we kind of knew where we were going at that point, and that was very helpful.